We're here at the Web 2.0 Summit in San Francisco, and with me I have David Campbell. He is a technical fellow at Microsoft.
There you go. My wife likes, what the heck is a technical fellow?
Well, what the heck is a technical fellow?
Good question. There are like 24 of us at 2025 company, and different sorts of templates. Mine's sort of high-level architect, think of sort of technical vision and approach, and then try to get a bunch of people to head off in that direction.
All right. Well, technical vision and approach, big software company. These days, we're in the data frame at the summit.
Yes.
So how does that vision and approach lead to Microsoft's thinking on the past, present, and future of its role in big data?
Yeah, great question. The interesting thing for me, I've been a data geek for 25 plus years, and you go back 5 to 7 years ago, it was kind of hard to get some of the younger kids to think that the data space was interesting. They thought it was sort of a solved problem. Databases, kind of boring stuff. But it's amazingly exciting right now with all the big data and stuff happening there. And the cool thing about my experience at Microsoft is some of the folks I used to work with in the database space, SQL Server, left some years ago over to online services. So the architect of the Bing search infrastructure used to work with me in the database space 10 years ago. And it's kind of a neat thing to have one part of the company that's processing hundreds of petabytes a day and tens and hundreds of thousands of servers, and then a commercial business. And then over the last couple of years, what's been really neat is to see those things come together and things that scale even on the commercial side. So that is, I think, the cool part about it, the cool part about being Microsoft now.
Some of what's happening now seems like it wasn't technically possible even a couple of years ago.
Yeah, for a variety of reasons. I mean, if you think about the cost just to acquire the data, anecdotes I shared in the meeting, the talk I gave this morning, you can still pay people to type stuff in. It's roughly $1 per kilobyte. But you go back 25 or 30 years and virtually all of the data that we were working with had come off human fingertips in some form. And now it's just out there. Even sort of inherently analog things like phone calls and pictures, they're just born digital. And to store it, we've gone from roughly $1,000 per megabyte 25 years ago to $40 a terabyte for raw storage. So it's just an incredible shift in this whole opportunity, this big data just waiting for us to do something with it.
Well, I remember looking at pictures from history and seeing rooms full of computers where the computers were actually people at Bletchley Park busily typing things in. We're in a different place now.
We are certainly.
And it seems like there's some real opportunities now for smaller companies, startups, et cetera, to get into this space and make a real limited investments that have substantial returns.
Yes.
And I know that Microsoft has a partner strategy and has been trying to work with startups. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, that's sort of been part of what we've been doing for a long, long time. And the interesting thing about the data space, if you will, is that we're talking with a lot of people who have machine learning experience. They know a particular domain, but it's really hard for them to go find a set of customers. So let's say they've got an algorithm or a model that might be relevant to 5,000 people and it's really, really hard for them to go find them. And we built this thing a couple of years ago. We call it Data Market, and the idea is to change the route to market. So those guys, instead of having to go up with feet on the street to find those people, can take their model, place it in the data market in some form, and then others can go find it. And the example I use inside the company, for those old enough to remember, is way back when people were building Visual Basic controls. It was way harder to write one than it was to consume one. And the guys writing the controls didn't have to go find the guy who was building the dentist app. They just published it in this thing from way back when. It was actually on paper called Programmer's Paradise. And then the guy who was writing the dentist app would just go there to find what he needed. And same sort of thing here. How do you connect those people, those data scientists who are going to remain a rare commodity, with the set of people who can make use of the models that they have?
And you've got the scientists, you've got models. What about tools? Where are Microsoft's investments? Where's your thinking in terms of the tools that exist, that you've created, that need to be created? Yeah,
tooling is going to be a big challenge, big opportunity here. One of the things we've done in the last year or two is that as data becomes more freely available, discovering it and being able to work with it, recombine it. So we have this thing we call discover, enrich, and publish. So we just announced a tool last week we call a Data Explorer. which lets people discover other forms of data, some of them on the data market, some that they have, be able to mash them up, turn around, and then republish it. So one of the things that we looked at when we often started building the tools is people tend to do mashups today in what I was calling a last mile tool. So it might be Access or Excel or some other tool. And when you were done, you could share it with anyone else who had the same tool. The idea of the Data Explorer is to back up one step, to produce something that is itself a data source that's then consumable by a large number of last mile tools, or frankly you can just program against the service itself to produce applications and whatnot. So tooling there, and then upfront exploration as well, another big piece.
So last question. When you look at the way this space has evolved, and quite quickly recently, what are some of the places that people, that smart startups, that businesses, even that large enterprises, are still failing to take advantage of the opportunity in front of them, and what would be the strategic advice for the way to think about using data, collecting data that you'd offer?
In my experience here in the last couple of years, it's to get people, we're talking about the data frame, it's about their frame and how they think about it. And we, from the data side, I think we've lived in what we call a world of scarcity. We thought that data is expensive. It's expensive to store, so get rid of it as soon as possible. You don't want to just hang on to it unless you have a good use for it. And to think about it from this perspective of abundance. And there's a thing called BAM, activity monitoring. You sort of tune businesses. Part of the challenge 10, 15 years ago was, where do I go get the data? Where do I need to tap in? But in today's world, everything is so interconnected, it's just a matter of teeing into it. And sort of the phrase I've used instead of big data is ambient data. It's just out there and available. So I think the recommendation would be to just stop and think about how valuable the sort of latent value in all of that data that is there to be collected, and it's fairly easy to store now. So that's the challenge and opportunity for all of us.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that. That is some idea of what a technical fellow at Microsoft might be thinking about or doing.
There you go.
And the talk from this morning that David Campbell referred to will also be available on YouTube for viewing. Thanks again.
Certainly. Thanks.